Back for another Talk About It Tuesday. And I love this question because it's on a topic that everyone needs to know about, but it is oftentimes neglected. So listen to this. What is asset protection and what steps should I take to protect my assets? So first of all, we need to understand what an asset is and understand that everyone has some assets. So you have what we call tangible assets and we have intangible assets. So what are tangible assets? Tangible assets are money, things you can touch, right? Things that you can really get your hands on. Property, real estate, um, collectibles, land, a stock portfolio, things of that nature. That's tangible. Those are tangible assets. So assets are things of value. Tangible assets are things that can usually be easily valued, and an exchange for money usually occurs for them. So those are tangible. What are intangible assets? Usually what we call intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, patents, things of that nature are intangible assets. So you need a good mix of tangible and intangible assets. But everyone has something of value that's an asset. So you must take steps to protect your assets. So what are the steps you need to take? I'm going to break this down for you. Step one is to take an inventory of the assets that you have. So everything that you might have, whether it's some intellectual property you're working on, a song, a book, something you've created, an invention, an idea, or it's the collectible that grandma gave you, or it's the cash you have in a bank, or it's a piece of property that you own, something that has value that you could exchange for cash. So that's, you take an inventory, and once you take an inventory, you assess a value to it. So you might have to do it professionally, right? You can get an assessment of the value of tangible assets. It's harder to put a value to intangible assets, but for the tangible assets, if it's a collectible, you get it graded. If it's a piece of property, you get an appraisal. You find out what these things are worth, because the next step is to be able to maintain and protect properly your assets. So how do you maintain it? Some things need greater maintenance than others. If it's a piece of real estate, if you want to maintain the value of your asset, there's upkeep, regular upkeep that has to happen. If it's, collectibles, you might have to store them in a certain temperature in a certain place as opposed to putting them in a plastic bag in a closet. So find out what it takes to maintain it and then add protection. So if it needs to go behind, glass in a, temperature controlled place, then you do that. But protection also means getting insurance on the asset. So if an asset is valuable, you do not want to lose it. You should protect it by maintaining it the way it needs to be maintained and upkept. And you should also insure it just in case you have loss. So within that, you should take an assessment also of all the things that could threaten the value and take steps to mitigate that. Once we do that, once we understand those things, then the next step is figuring out how you extract the value from your asset. Some assets, the only way to extract the value is to sell the asset. So you have to understand that. Where some assets, you can borrow against the asset and take the money, and as long as you pay it back, you get to keep the asset. It's used as collateral. Sometimes you can actually make money from the asset while you're holding it. So again, a piece of property, perhaps you can rent it. Piece of equipment, perhaps you can rent it. If you have a stock portfolio, you can get dividends. So you have to find the best ways to be able to extract and maximize the value of your asset. The final stage is, how do you pass on that asset to the next generation? Some assets, the easiest way is just to write it in a will. But some assets, maybe you should put them in a trust for a beneficiary, because that's the best way to transfer that to the next generation. So you have to make a decision. What's the best way to ensure who you want to have the asset gets the asset once you pass on. So those are the steps to asset protection. You do have some assets. Take inventory, find out what it's worth, maintain and protect it, pass it on properly. Great question. I love that question. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.